This 3D comparison shows the modern Russian Federation, and overlaid on top of it is the total surface area of Pluto. Even against a celestial body, Russia is larger, spanning 11 time zones and dominating the Eurasian landmass. But this continent-spanning footprint started as a handful of freezing, isolated wooden trading posts scattered along icy rivers in the 9th century. Getting from those small river settlements to a landmass larger than a dwarf planet was the result of a 1,000-year cycle of total, systemic collapse followed by radical, ruthless reinvention. This map traces 9th century river networks, where Norse traders, the Rus, transported furs and slaves from Scandinavia to Byzantium. Zooming out, these settlements merged with Slavic tribes, forming the first organized state by bringing these settlements under a single border centered on Kiev. In 988 AD, Prince Vladimir adopted Orthodox Christianity, a choice that established a permanent cultural bedrock for the region. This decision provided a common religious identity and an artistic language that would persist through centuries of foreign occupation and internal revolution. This early state, Kievan Rus, serves as the shared political ancestor for Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. Over time, however, internal rivalries over succession fractured the territory into a patchwork of feuding domains. That internal division proved fatal. A loose collection of divided tribes simply could not hold this flat, exposed geography against a concentrated foreign invasion. In 1237, Mongol armies swept in from the east. They burned Kiev to the ground and forced the surviving Russian principalities into 2.5 centuries of brutal subjugation and heavy tribute payments, a period known as the Mongol Yoke. While larger cities suffered, a minor, easily overlooked fortress named Moscow quietly took advantage of the occupation. By acting as the Mongols' designated tax collector, the city steadily stockpiled wealth, transforming its fragile wooden palisades into formidable stone walls. By 1480, Moscow had gathered enough military and financial strength that Grand Prince Ivan III stopped paying tribute entirely, permanently shifting the geopolitical center to his city. A few generations later, his grandson, Ivan IV, Ivan the Terrible, claimed the title Tsar, a name derived from the Roman Caesar. This coronation formalized Moscow's role as the successor to an imperial legacy, marking its transition from a regional principality to a global power. The trauma of the Mongol occupation left a permanent mark on Moscow's political DNA. To survive on an open plain surrounded by powerful neighbors, the state evolved into a highly centralized, militarized autocracy. Following a chaotic power struggle in the early 1600s, the Romanov family secured the throne. They launched a 300-year campaign of relentless outward expansion. Rulers like Peter the Great recognized that isolation invited invasion. He forced the deeply traditional agrarian society to modernize its military and physically dragged the nation into European politics by building a naval fleet. Looking at this map of Romanov territory, you can see the results of that militarization. Subsequent rulers, particularly Catherine the Great, drove a sweeping expansion of the borders, pushing aggressively east across the Asian continent and west into Europe. The Romanovs successfully built a massive global empire, but they maintained that scale by engineering a rigid, top-heavy society that extracted immense wealth from millions of suffering peasants to fund the imperial court. That system finally hit its breaking point during the meat-grinding campaigns of World War I. The fragile Romanov autocracy collapsed under the strain of mass casualties and food shortages, sparking the 1917 revolution. Vladimir Lenin and his Bolshevik faction moved quickly into the power vacuum. They stripped away centuries of imperial rule and built a radically new, ideologically driven apparatus, the Soviet Union. Under Joseph Stalin, the state forced millions of rural peasants into rapid industrialization. In a desperate race to modernize, the government enacted brutal forced collectivization and political purges, extracting an immense death toll to build a heavy industrial base. That immense domestic sacrifice allowed the USSR to build the mechanized capacity needed to play a decisive role in defeating Nazi Germany, eventually elevating the Soviet Union to a nuclear superpower locked in the Cold War. While the ideology had changed, the Soviet system relied on a very old Russian survival mechanism, trading devastating internal suffering to project centralized, unassailable power outward. In 1991, that immense Soviet apparatus experienced a sudden collapse. The Cold War ended, and the sprawling empire fractured into 15 separate republics. Out of that fracture, modern Russia emerged as a fully independent nation for the first time in centuries, retaining the vast majority of the Soviet landmass and inheriting its massive nuclear arsenal. The ensuing decade brought severe economic upheaval, which predictably triggered a strict reconsolidation of central authority, this time under President Vladimir Putin. Today, operating from the exact same fortress of power in Moscow, Russia remains a fiercely contested, heavily armed, and highly influential force globally. The map we see today represents the latest iteration of this thousand-year cycle. It is a story of relentless survival and reinvention that is still unfolding.